believe somewhere on our shelf you'll find her self-published first collection of poetry, Norky, correct pronunciation. Yes, Sister Mia X, always at the IG, so if you're on IG, follow her at Best Thing Created. Brother Roberto Carlos Garcia has also joined us, blessed us with his presence. Brother Garcia was born in Harlem, New York. He is the author of What Can I Tell You? Selected Poems, Elegies from 2020, and Melancholia, the 2023 New Jersey State Council of the Arts Poetry Fellow. He's also professor of English at Union County College and lives here in Jersey. So please give it up for Brother Roberto Carlos Garcia. And my brother in the glasses, Brother Curtis Grayson III, is an artist who discovered his passion at an early age, drawing inspiration from the legendary Ernie Barnes, who's, yes, always. Of course, for those who may not know, Ernie Barnes' work was featured on the greatest TV show of all time, Good Times, in my opinion. His own work would make it to the screen in films like Dance of August, starring Sanaa Lathan and Wesley Snipes, as well as the sequel to The Best Man. He is a graduate of the prestigious Arts High School. Yes. Exhibited through numerous galleries. They are joined in discussion with our moderator, Jamara Wakefield. Am I right? Writer, filmmaker, person who is constantly killing it. The bio weighs a ton. It's a lot to read, so you can keep up with her and her ongoing process on IG at Jamara Producer. Also support her on Substack at jamara.substack.com. So if you want to subscribe and follow her work. So no further ado, I cede the floor to you.
Can we just test our mics real quick? We all good? 1, 2. We good? Okay, perfect. Well, you're here to talk about Baldwin and hear about Baldwin. So I'll just assume that you are already fired up. And if you are not fired up, then you came here to get fired up, right? Am I close? Am I close? Just gratitude to the House. Librarians are revolutionaries. They advocate for our families, for our communities, for our books, for our literacy, for our future, right? And our past and our present. So just gratitude to Reggie and Beth and Macy who are here. Dale is also here. And they hold the space continually and do all that work behind the scenes. So we're just so thankful, so thankful. So just give it up for the librarians and the staff who makes all this happen. Now, I wouldn't normally just drop right into that film, but a lot was happening in that film. So I think we need to unpack, right? Because I felt, I want to hear from y'all, but I feel like there was a lot of violence that was happening, but also like these moments of Black joy. I want to give a bit of context to the film though, before we get into it. So it's important to remember that these filmmakers who you saw at the beginning approached Baldwin to do a film about him. So they did the outreach and said, hey, can we, talk to you and film with you, right? And then, oh, hey, Noelle, hi. Noelle's also here. So they came to him. They asked for permission, right? And so then he grants it and says, okay, we'll do this thing, right? We'll have a conversation. And then we hear all these words about like hostility and aggressiveness and like, we don't understand what you're doing, that sort of thing, right? It's also important to remember, just within a historical context, that Baldwin leaves America at 24 years old, right? So just imagine the amount of experiences he's had by 24 that he's like, I gotta go. Okay. He leaves, and not only does he leave, he begins to produce work like rapid fire. And we'll get into those works in just a second. So we know that Baldwin is young. We know that he is desiring and burning to write. He's feeling constrained by America, right? White supremacy, colonialism, imperialism, all the things, right? And now he finds himself in Paris with these filmmakers who asked him to spend time with him, right? So that's where we're arriving in this moment. So I would just, I know, they asked him to talk. What are your reactions? Let's just start there. It's gonna lean on you when I need you, because they asked him to talk about himself, and then they called him hostile and violent and aggressive. So go ahead, please.
For me, I think I would say that his view and his perspective, even now, is just something that people can't put in a box. You know, like you have an expectation or you think you know, but you have no idea. And that's really what that showed us, just in that small clip. Like he had an experience, he has an experience that is not, you know, in the books per se. Like now it is because he's expressing, but during that time, you know, I don't think that people knew, you know, the pain that he was going through, or they could even grasp his feelings, you know, his experience. And that's why he's so important, you know, just from watching that, that's just what I got. It was like, you might have had an expectation, but he's not your expectation. His experience is his experience, and we have to listen to him so we can hear it. Because as he shares it, we all can grow. But if you're sitting there thinking that you know the answer, then you're not going to get what he came to give us. And so he just forced people to shut up, you know, and listen. And also, I'm just going to say, his eyes.
Let's
right?
go.
Right?
Let's go.
That's my reaction.
Let's go.
His eyes. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, his eyes.
I'm a poet and I write about eyes a lot, but his eyes are a poem. His eyes are a novel.
Yeah.
You know, so just that look is like, you know, how do you even react to that look? If he started looking at you with those eyes, you'd be like, what the fuck did I do? What did I do? Like, you know, so thank you for asking.
There's like all these things happening in this movie, right? So these documentarians or whoever they were, they had this script where they had a plan basically for him, right? And it's very interesting because at this time, like 1970, and it's very important to talk about the CIA. Okay, it's very important to talk about the CIA and FBI because at this time, what they have done by hijacking media narratives is like defang revolutionaries and defang revolutionary texts and just throw it into like this capitalist framework. Like you heard the questions they were asking him, like you can go wherever you want. You're famous. Your name's Baldwin. Like forget the marching that you did. Forget the time that you spent on the ground with Dr. King, with Malcolm X, with Medgar Evers, meeting Bobby Kennedy, right? And then all the other folks along the way when he got involved in the Black Power movement, people who were assassinated and the people who were imprisoned and thrown in the dungeon of the prison, who are still in prison, members of the Black Panther Party, they want to come to him and talk to him. They want to do what they started the plan they had to turn these revolutionary figures into Santa Claus. The way they turned Dr. King into a kind of Santa Claus and Mandela into a kind of Santa Claus. When these were radical folks, right? And so this documentary, I look at it as almost like an attempt to do that. Like, tell us about why you had to get away, you know, tell us about how wonderful your life now is in Europe, etc. And he's like,
this time in his life, Baldwin was in deep, deep mourning. Not just for all the people he lost, but for what he saw was the beginning of the decline of a movement. America made its decision. America was like, fuck you off, or excuse my French, but that was it. And he wrote about this and spoke about this often. And then here comes these dudes with this bullshit script, and he was like, look, only way I'm talking to y'all is if you get rid of that script. And that's why he's like going at them, like stuff coming at me with these cookie ass questions. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. When they were like, what did they ask him about being a writer? Like,
Why does it take you so long?
right, people can dismiss. All right, next time, no, they can't. What are you talking about? No, they can't dismiss that. But he's throwing these lollipops at him, like, as opposed to really engaging him as to where he is now in his life. What is happening now in America? Where does the movement stand? Right? No, they want to come in on this manufactured narrative and defang that aspect of it. And so he's very gracious. He's very gracious because he let them in, even though he really didn't want to talk to them because they were like, your script is bullshit. Like, how are you going to come interview me for a documentary about me and have a script ready for me? Right? Like, what is it you're trying to get out of me here? And at this point in his life, what was most important to him is not betraying young Black activists in the movement. That was critical to him. It's like, I will not abandon you. I will not betray you. To him, the Black Power movement was a natural extension of the civil rights movement. He was with it. He was with it. So it's very frustrating to watch these documentarians keep trying to, bullshit him. And he's being gracious enough to really give them where he's at in his time and who he's interacting with. And you can see how protective of him of young people are because he's got bullshit coming at him. So there is a lot of violence happening.
Yeah, there is.
A lot of disrespect.
There is. And I love that you use the word manufacture because that's a word that I think all of us as artists or creators or community organizers or, we're always fighting up against this manufactured idea of what it means to be in community, what it means to make art, what it means to be here, right? To be Black, to be queer, to be whatever it is, right? We're always bumping up against this thing that's manufactured versus just letting us be here, right? Curtis.
Yes, he definitely impacted so much from there. From myself as being a visual artist, but also a historian as far as having a degree in African American studies, it took almost 30 years for me to realize having that degree, Black studies major, and also as far as visual art, to not have to separate, to be able to embrace it, but also talking to my art professors, in school, I remember me being maybe the only Black, in the class and having to deal with, do I take on that boulder of holding up my race on my back for everything that I create? Because if I choose to just paint flowers or as far as abstracts or whatever, things were happening in the time frame of, well, why am I doing things or whatever that's revolutionary or, talking about the times that's happening. So I started seeing it. So now I got to the point where I forced myself not to get put into any categories, to be able to step out. I say that I'm the Pablo Picasso or the KRS-One of, I have many styles, from if I want to be figurative, abstract, semi-abstract, you name it, I can do it. Sculpture, painting, drawing, everything. Art educator as well, so we just mentioned about his eyes, that draws me, as far as a visual artist. It's just, they're fire. There's very few people that have eyes like that. Baldwin, I can think of, Pablo Picasso. It's piercing eyes or whatever that just stop you dead in your tracks. Just revolution. It was just a lot.
Just to piggyback, you talk about being put in boxes, right? I think the wild thing that we see at the moment in the conversation where he's talking to him about his books and he's like, well, you made it, right? You made it out. As if capitalism is going to fix all your ills. Well, you're a success now, so none of that stuff you were writing about or talking about, it's not that bad for you anymore. So you're good, right? Like, there's this almost like trying to push him into this corner of you're good now because you're a success. And you can tell that he's like, I think that's a pitfall you got to navigate. Have what's in you. But then they're going to try to keep you broke if you keep talking about what they don't want to hear. And so many of us right now, academia, we're realizing that. Like, they're going to keep you broke if you're fighting for your community. And one of the amazing things about Baldwin his entire life is that he was never all good financially. A lot of people don't know that. This is a man who should have won a Pulitzer, a Nobel, all of that. This is a dude who should have had the tenure track, all of that. But because he was so uncompromising, a lot of his positions, he was left out of those gravy trains that we see a lot of people today because they do make a choice silent about certain issues. Palestine being one of them. Free Palestine, by the way. Something that Baldwin was big on. Okay, because his experience so long he
The scene that really soothes my soul in this is when you see Baldwin with the young people talking, right? And they're talking about his work and unpacking it. And then there are these moments of laughter, right? It's probably the first time we see him smile and see others smile. And it's really important for me to underscore that moment because there are conversations that we can only have together where we have the freedom to put our guard down and be vulnerable and be artists and say, wow, this is really messed up, y'all, or not even say it, just look at each other like, right? And in those moments, right, that's also where we can feel joy, right? Those are also the moments where we can reclaim our humanity, right? And feel affection and feel happiness and feel community, right? So, the beginning is just awful for me. I'm just like, if you don't take that camera and smash it. But when we get to that next part, it really just reminds me, okay, that's us, right? And we have to make sure that we're nurturing spaces for that because that's where we refuel ourselves. That's where we nurture each other. This film is actually on, it's James Baldwin in Paris. You can actually watch it on YouTube if you want to follow up and catch more of it. One of my favorite Baldwin essays is called The Artist's Struggle for Integrity, where he really unpacks this idea that only the artist can do it. Whatever we are searching for in terms of social change, only the poets know. Only the artists can do it, meaning they can speak the truth, right? They can sit in that space of vulnerability. They can put their entire lives on the line to make this thing called art. It's a beautiful piece. And he also talks about the artist's responsibility to their craft, to their community. So I would love to hear from each of you in thinking of this idea of how much truth can we bear in our art? And how do you wrestle with that and find that place of vulnerability and integrity that you feel like this is my zone, right? That's not manufactured, something that can only come from you. I'll let y'all. Curtis, please.
Well, myself as a visual artist, I only approach my easel and my canvas when I'm at peace. I never paint when I'm upset. I have a lot of colleagues and friends or whatever other artists. They paint in all different emotions. I can tell them that it affects your palette. It affects your colors. That energy, most of the time, you'll see my work. I get a positive energy because I'm only putting positive energy in. It acts as a mirror. I truly believe that whatever the energy you put in, it's going to reflect back. Myself, as far as an artist, how I perceive as far as how I deal with being an artist, I always believe as far as you have that, at the end of the day, we have that responsibility. We have the responsibility of what are you doing during the test of time or whatever of your presence. I can create whatever I'm going to create, but at the end of the day, it's still, this is going to last a lifetime when I'm gone. When I read work here, it's going to tell a history. It's going to tell us things are always taught. What was written, what was actually reported, what was painted. A lot of times what happens or whatever when conquerors come into lands or whatever, the first thing they do is they burn the library, they destroy as far as the riches, the arts or whatever, and they take all the books, everything else, besides the gold. But that's how you control the narrative. So it's very important. I take it, my responsibility as an artist is to still show the beauty in my people. So I'm going to always push that narrative because I know so many times we were excluded, so many times that we were forgotten about, or if we were showing examples, it was a depiction of, as far as negativity. And so we wrestle all the time with trying to still show that Black is beautiful and so am I. Like I did a painting or whatever, where I'm trying to just show that beauty. In 2024, we still deal with, as far as Black kids or whatever, with, as far as, skin color. It's still the dozens and still having that stereotypes. Those things still happen. We are still in that generation that we're dealing with the trauma from slavery, from post-slavery. A lot of people who have tried to brainwash us and try to get us to think that it doesn't exist or it doesn't happen or you're okay. We're numb right now. We're numb and still trying to heal and been trying to heal without maybe therapy, without as far as conditions or people. We've just been able to still somehow create. We've still been able to do what we do. We're gifted. We're magical. And somehow we just still make it happen. Just make it happen all the time. So I mean that's myself as far as the responsibility of an artist. It's my job to make sure that I'm still pushing our narrative. The best person that can tell our story is me. We can tell our story. That is the best of whatever who can tell our story. If someone can live and be close to us but can't tell our story, they can feel what we feel, but they can't really sense what we feel because they haven't been through what we've been through. We can only tell our own stories that way.
I'm reflecting on a time when I was younger and I wrote that I was crumbs and I wrote myself into a whole loaf. I was breadcrumbs and I wrote myself into a full loaf. Period. And I mean, I take that like and as you were asking, I was thinking about the totality of I think, and I'm probably toxic positive because I'm so positive because everything is so negative around me that I'll be like positivity. But in my art space as a poet, I use all of my emotions to acknowledge the way that I feel. And that makes me feel present to my humanness. And I feel like that's my responsibility because we are not what people see on TV. We are not, I'm older now. It's so funny, like BET, like are not that. We are not that. We are not the narrative that the manufactured narrative that, we are not that. So as an artist, it's up to us to really show who we are, what we do, why we do. Our culture, what do we care about? How do we sound? What do we want to live on after we're gone? Like I'm confronted with that as I approach every page because I know that I won't be here forever, but I hope that somebody will stumble upon my notebooks, just like Prince, all those, and find it and read it and let it give them life, and I hope that I am asking questions that will help people to find themselves as I have been searching and finding my own self. I feel like the questions are what will remain, and love is always the answer. So we'll just be it. But I appreciate being able to pin it and create it and read it back and share it and hear the musicality and the struggle. You know? And also, I'll just add before I read my poem that I think Baldwin is so beautiful because he has such a troubled life. You know, sometimes we go through things and we think that, you know, it's just something to go through, but it's power in overcoming, it's power in pain, it's power in all the things that we've experienced. And we can't put that to the back burner because that's very much a part of who we are. And as we bring that to us, you know, and maybe more people will see our beauty. But if we can see it ourselves and tap into it, then we're winning. This is a piece of poetry that I wrote. This book is from 2013. Throwback.
Hey, hey.
And still kicking.
You know, and usually when I read poetry, I'm very performative. I'm not going to perform this for you because I was saying it's called listen, and I think that what Baldwin reminds us to do is to listen. Sometimes we think we heard something, but we need to listen again. So if you'll listen, here's the poem. Look, that would be a great decision. Think about yes, and this one too. All of these are y'all. This way, look, wrap it up for this library space.
Honestly.
I mean, I just love it. Thank
Sure.
you with our ancestors around. Okay, so here you go. Tune out, tune in, tune out, tune in, tune out the hatred. The killing across corners and circles, the naked truth riding on buses, out windows, at payphones with no quarters. No littering signs, but we stand there. Groups. A fuse is blown, blues. The dues is due, he gone. The lights, the baby, the food, the mice, the lady. Her dude beater, Chris Brown made it okay. Take what you want, don't let it decay in your cabbage. Floss your teeth. Your heat depends upon the green that you keep in your bank. Tune out a dollar sign. Check the balance in your palms. Beam and dream. Reach a gravy mind state of a game. Cream, raping and robbing you for every penny. Your claim to fame is your history. Name. Buried behind a burning stash of brown tongues, pining for your ear. A fear so deep down in your delta, waiting the water of your tears. Your hereafter depends upon your now. Your clock is striking. Bells are sounding. Listen, listen, listen. Tune out, tune in, tune out, tune in to a best self practice. Examine a motive, reaction, a moment in time. Take it. Reflection, action slanted out of passion. Direction, vectors in traffic, fashion. A better look your best, be your best, do your best. International campaign for what you want. Your vision is a drop in a well, infinitely open sky, vanilla, instantly knowing oneself higher, still spiritually reaching, climbing, listening to God, drum, water crashing on rocks, hummingbirds, helicopters, sirens, guns blaring, speakers crying out, daring somebody to listen, listen, listen. Thank you.
I think one of my chief responsibilities is as an artist to make it plain, right? I think you probably remember that old Malcolm X documentary on PBS, Make It Plain, right? That the title of that I felt connected so well with the way that Malcolm expressed himself. He reported what he saw. And because we live in an age where people want to tell you that you're not seeing what you're really seeing, we live in an age where people tell you that your eyes are lying to you, right? And so it's like, I don't want to, when I sit down to write, this piece written by a Palestinian poet on, you know, what they call like the craft of writing, right? Like every artist has tools, basically. A painter has their tools, a singer has their tools, a writer, right? But it's about not overusing those tools and taking the teeth out of your work. It's about not drowning it in these tools and crafts to the point where the reality is gone from the work. You didn't make it plain, you just made some pretty bullshit, right? So it's like, what I'm always trying to warn against, especially because, okay, I work at a college, you know, academia and all. We know that academia will kill the hell out of everything. It really will. Let's just be honest, okay? So I'm within that tension also, right? But what I always got to guard against is, you know, telling white people what they want to hear, right? Because what did the dude say to him, right? He said, you know, you write for white people, right? And he's like, no. And he's like, yeah, but black people don't read this book. I'm like, well, shit. He's like, they steal them, right? Like, he's just trying to get back at this guy because what are you talking about, right? And we know that Baldwin got some criticism, you know, sometimes he would get flack. They would say he's like, you know, white people's great hope, great black hope, et cetera, et cetera. So we know he had to deal with that. But it's just like, I don't want to obfuscate what is really happening. I want you're gonna know what's really going on. That's very important for me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. So we know that Baldwin was born in 1924. Um, we know we can learn about Baldwin's childhood and his youth from his own writing. So we're lucky in that instance. There's also a really great podcast called The Magpie Years, which explores Baldwin's writing in high school. He was the editor of the student newspaper and the student journals and the poetry books there. So if you're interested in young Baldwin, profound and peering into his own future, I would definitely suggest that podcast. We know that in 1948, Baldwin moves to Paris, right? And then Paris becomes this site or this geographic site of both liberation, but also this heavy reality that you can never escape your blackness, right? In 1953, he publishes Go Tell It on the Mountain. In 1956, 3 years later, Giovanni's Room, which is incredibly important for LGBTQ communities, right? And identity. 1963, The Fire Next Time is published, and this is the first time he becomes a bestseller. He has made it, right, in terms of literary worlds and publishing. And then in 1965, Baldwin engages in a very famous debate with William F. Buckley at Cambridge University. Hey, you've seen it. You remember that one, right? If you haven't seen it, put that on your YouTube playlist because it is epic. One of my favorite things about Baldwin is that, you know, he would get paid for these gigs, right? So, you know, can you even imagine the conversations? They're like, hey, Baldwin, would you like to come and talk to us? And he'd be like, sure, I'll come, you know, and and there's going to be an honorarium, great. And so Baldwin takes the money, right? And then he just goes and just wilds out, right? And I thought about that because this idea of who are we performing for? Who are we writing for? Who are we making art for? Who are we organizing for? Who are we starting our nonprofits for? Because at some point, you have to reconcile with the audience that you want versus maybe the audience that you need, right? And so if you're putting your set list together for a gig, because again, there's an honorarium on the table, right? There's this cognitive dissonance that now you have to perform a specific way because of the audience, right? But Baldwin, I love Baldwin because he always takes the money. And then, right, and then he gets up there and says what he needs to say. And I think about if all of us could stand on business for 1% of what Baldwin does in those debates, in those conversations, even the one with Nick Giovanni, right? He really stands on it. And I love that. So I would love to hear about your personal practices and these moments of reconciliation where you're having to make these creative choices between who you are and who you're going to be versus what that honorarium is paying for when you get the gig.
tell y'all, I'm a single mother of 3 children. Okay. They are hungry. They need book bags for back to school right now. So you better believe. No, I'm just playing. But serious, we gotta live. You know what I mean? Like you have to have your feet planted in the truth of who you are and be committed to sharing your truth. That's really what I do. I try my best to share the truth, you know, and I honestly don't care how people feel about it. You know, like I do what I feel like I need to do when I'm asked. I do research. You know, if I don't know, I figure things out. I feel like I really am actively practicing using my craft. I ask for the utility of it. It's something I use. I want to be beautiful and useful, you know, and I'm thinking about my children. I'm thinking about all of that, but I also have to pay the bills. So I got to do that, you know, but I think, and a lot of times in my writing, I write a lot about value. And I think just being in a place where everything has a price on it, you have to know what you're actually paying. You have to know the price of your ticket. You have to know the price of your love because, you know, you can't sell out if you know it. You shouldn't. I would never, look, never, never, never. But you know, it's important to have your feet planted in your reality and in your truth and just be committed to your purpose, you know, and you know, walk away if it don't feel good to you, you know, regardless. Like I would rather have that conversation with my children, like you can't have this because, you know, as opposed to just being like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Because I really appreciate and I find value in all the words that I spit and share, you know, and you have to sometimes just keep being that and then, you know, walk away from the price if it ain't right. You know, it's okay to say no. No is fine. No is revolution.
No, it's better.
You know, so I
No
think,
is revolution,
yes.
period.
Yeah, you know, word up, word up. We train together, and our teacher, we train together, and our teacher often says, you know, all money ain't good money, right? Um, the way I reconcile that is like, when you ask me to show up and read or talk, what you read is what you're gonna get. And so I'm always writing about the way anti-blackness works in the Latino community because it does. It is ever present. I've experienced the worst racism I've dealt with has been from the Latino community. And I say that all the time, and Latinos are always shocked. But I'm like, whatever. You know, I know what I know. So if you're not prepared to hear that, don't call me up to come talk. Because it's in the book. You want me to read from the book and talk about the book? That's what you're gonna get. Okay? So we go all the time. I remember I had this colleague who was like, you know, where's she from? Maybe she's Puerto Rican or something, you know. She was like, well, I would like to see you, you know, engage more with the Latinos. I know you have black friends. And I was like, sis, this is the shit I'm talking about. Right? You already viewing me outside of the community. Isn't that right? So when I show up to talk, I'm gonna come at you like that. And what's interesting about Jimmy is like he would take these gigs and he would write notes down on like the hotel stationery or like a napkin or something. Like that whole talk with Buckley, which is like legendary right now, which okay. You want to talk about like a mediocre dude? Buckley was real mediocre. Okay. He could not use his chief ability, which was shouting people down and not letting them get a word in edgewise, right? That was his like chief debate tactic. But over there, he couldn't do that because everybody got their allotted amount of time. And Jimmy, being the preacher's son, that was his show. He was like, I got this. He had his little list, you know what I mean? And he was on. So all of this to say that what he wrote in his books is what you were going to hear when he showed up. So he will gladly take your money because he's always standing on business, right? And so that's how I try to do that. I'm gonna take your money, but you're gonna hear this, and you may not like it, you know. And I've been to some places where they, you know, you get the, the clutching of the pearls, but that's what it is. you want to hear me, that's what it is, you know? Let's read a little poem. Oh, I would much rather tell you about my jacket. So I was
Both.
Both.
Please.
Both of them.
Both of them. Yes. Isn't that awesome?
I was at the Brooklyn Museum doing this event they hold called First Saturdays, first Saturday of the month. It's dope, if y'all know about it. And they have vendors come in, and usually it's Black-owned businesses from the community. And this is, handmade. She was at $80. I said the best $80 I ever spent. It was beautiful. And of course, I'm from Harlem, so I had to get the Harlem button. Represent. Y'all know who this is, Radio Raheem, right? So yeah, it was beautiful, right? It was beautiful. Short one, right? Read a short one to y'all that encapsulates kind of what I write about.
Right, like take it. We all right.
Right. So James Baldwin is actually in my second book, and he makes up part of the chorus in the book, which is built on my experience growing up in the United States. As I was a child of Black Caribbean immigrants, and so there's three characters. There's James Baldwin. There's a matriarchal figure who has a lot of this old stuff from the Caribbean in her mind, and there's this Puerto Rican poet named Miguel Pinheiro, who, it was dope, right? It was so dope. Okay, I'm gonna read this poem called Identity Repair Poem. It's like 4 stanzas, right? Identity Repair Poem. Negro. Negrito lindo. Pretty. Negrito chulo. Smooth. Querido negro. Beloved. Maldito negro. Damn. So in Spanish, the word negro by itself means nothing. It needs a modifier, right? So lindo means pretty. Anybody here know Felipe Luciano from the Young Lords? He got that poem, Jíbaro, my pretty, right? So that's what's fun. Negrito chulo is like playboy, Querido negro is beloved, and maldito negro is damn Black person, right? Sugarcane, yeah, we go back like sun and sweat, crack of the whip, greed and pain, trip across a cold, salty ocean. Afro-Latino, Pedro Martinez, Jerry Curls, Mongo Santa Maria, drums, 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 rum, rum, rum. Latino, Black, Hispanic, check here. Latino, white, Hispanic, check here. I mean, soy negro, negro, not half-am, but I'm Black, ¿verdad?
Curtis, my brother. So we are so fortunate that Baldwin truly left us the riches of his mind on the planet in his writings. Talk to us about your work, and let's introduce the audience to some of your pieces that are in this room. You can take the mic down. You're gonna do it like The Price is Right? No, what's that game show? What's a game show where they walk around?
Yeah,
like Oprah in the '80s when she used to walk around. Please.
So I have actually 3 pieces of Baldwin. One thing I usually do is I never really paint anyone that has passed on. I usually try to give people their flowers while they're here, if I'm doing any type of portrait. But the portraits, from Baldwin, it was calling. Even before, I knew that it was going to be 100 years of it. It really called me or whatever as far as with his work. I'll come around. I'll start from this way. All right. So this piece actually, this is the only one that's not a Baldwin. So I have 3 Baldwin pieces here. I'll unveil that one in a second. This is titled Triple Threat. So Triple Threat, you know, sometimes people always ask me like, where do you get your inspiration? You know, I tell people always life. I seen an image of it was three brothers like against the wall, and this bright light was illuminating on them. But I wanted to show a woman in the picture as well, which I put all the way on the left, on this side. So basically, what I wanted to do is I changed it up. I wanted to show three pivotal points of as far as our struggles. So you have as far as, of course, the black rights, as far as the black liberation, as far as period here, you had as far as the sanitation strike, which we all know as far as that was Dr. King's last as far as actual protest. And then as far as you see the brother right here with the Black Lives Matter, as far as there. That was just a pivotal move as far as of 3 stages of mobilizing as far as us as a people to do something, to call to action. Actually, we have 4 now because brother threw the hat up or whatever. As far as you know, that's so I might have to incorporate that in there. So now this was my first Baldwin piece. For some, I may just call it James Baldwin, but actually the title of this piece is "Let Me Tell You a Little Something About America." That's the title of this piece. So this is a G clay that we have. I use a lot of collage, mixed media collage. I use a lot of fabric. So this was actually the limited edition G clay of it. So it was like, this burlap, this plaid shirt, definitely striking eyes as typical Baldwin. So I found different images of Baldwin that I wanted to create and just wanted to bring this to life or whatever in this piece here. I'm gonna stroll over, I'm gonna save that one for after. This piece right here, I titled this one, I got so many titles, I gotta think, give me 1 second. Oh, the Burberry Chronicles. So basically what I wanted to do is, I wanted to depict Baldwin of how Baldwin would be if he was in 2024. His style and, I got him with his alligator print with his Burberry scarf on, holding his glasses and cigarette and just in his whole, splendor, from here. He's aging a little bit as far as, a little bit is gray, but still those eyes. But I wanted to show that blue. It's like, like I tell people all the time, especially like as African-American artists or whatever, we can create our imagery very well and show us in all different hues. We come in all different, shades. Myself as an art educator, I teach at Columbia High School, so I'm in I guess to be my 29th year in art education. 29, yeah. And so, it was a big thing when I would tell my students, like that Crayola, and all of a sudden I had like this mass collection of crayons that was multicultural. And it was like of all the different variations of the hues of, as far as of ethnicity. And I was telling my students, like, this is a big deal. And they couldn't get it. And I was just like, you don't understand. You understand? Let me take you back or whatever, my days or whatever. If you wanted to draw somebody that was, black or whatever, or African American, you had either 2 choices, either the black crayon or the brown crayon. There was, as far as that light color flesh apricot, right, if you had the 64, but I mean, that was it. Now things have changed where we even have as far as Band-Aids with all color skins or whatever. So from there, that is important. So to be able to show the colors in the blues, I'm still showing my strong African features, still showing it, whatever, through the lips, through the nose or whatever. We're proud of our lips, we're proud of our nose, like I said, that whole trickology, what they tried to do to us in the past or whatever, of trying to have us feeling that we're not beautiful and telling us that we're not beautiful to be on magazines and to be, as far as, on top of the world as models and everything. No, we are. And so I show that in my work. So that is the Burberry Chronicles or whatever from here. This is my latest piece. So I'm actually like coming home, or this is like a homecoming, because like I was telling somebody, I haven't been back in this library, especially like in here, since 1987 when I graduated from Arts High School. So it's been a long time. I mean, I've been doing things down north, of course, but not in here, not in the library. I remember sneak my little girlfriend up there, up in the cubbies or whatever, just to get steal a kiss. We go back. But so this piece, and this is pretty much 90% complete. You are the first to see it. So I wanted to save it for this to have it as like a kind of like grand opening or unveiling of this piece. I haven't even come up with a title of it yet, but I was looking at some images. I found some images of Baldwin, and I was like, how can I really? Because I gotta make sure I gotta step each one of these up because every one of I have collectors, and I was like, I gotta step my game up every time I do a painting itself. Is definitely a Baldwin painting. So this piece, I came with Baldwin with his Sherlin, and his whole splendor. But I was like, I'm gonna be really prolific as Baldwin. I'm gonna put his quotes and everything like unapologetically. So the quote that I found that I love that I wanted to capture. Like I said, this is about 90% complete, so it's almost done. But pretty much it was enough that I can show you. It says Baldwin is asked what killed the civil rights movement, and he responded, America decided to let the Negro participate in white capitalism while we traded liberation for consumerism. So this was it. Like I said, I haven't come up with the title just yet, but this is my latest Baldwin or whatever right here. So hopefully maybe you might enjoy from there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm gonna read a quick poem and then we'll transition into questions. We want to leave a few minutes for questions. That was so dope. There it is. You killed it. All right. There is an illness among us, a germ that hangs in the air that we breathe. And to cure it, we must look more closely at whiteness as an institution and America as a location, born from an inheritance of hatred stemming directly from Western Europe in the form of colonization and imperialism and manifest destiny, in all the ideas that drive consumerism and capitalism, in all the ways I've been attacked and dismissed and treated with contempt in nonviolent ways in the classroom or at the doctor's office, or anytime someone decides that I am the other, and therefore I didn't matter. And who do you consider to be the other? And which others are you afraid of? And what others are afraid of you? See, if you think you can escape this problem, you are already deep in something. You're already in it. See, like Funkadelic, I have tasted the maggots in the minds of these times, and I am concerned about, but not offended by my own complicity, for I know that I must rise above my own Americanness, openly, vocally, woefully. The same way I must dive into my Blackness emotionally, boastfully, globally. See, I believe in another world in this world, and I want to be in that. A world that for now I can only imagine when I listen to Sun Ra or read Octavia Butler, or when I touch myself on Saturday night or braid my hair on Sunday morning and rub coconut oil on my skin and call myself a queen to combat all the times I am called an other in the classroom or in the clinic waiting or on the train ride home. And in spite of all that, I still believe in this world. And I plan to stay a believer like Curtis Mayfield, because I understand that even cage birds sing, and that human bodies know they are human, and that flowers blossom without permission. And this is how I believe we should live. But can we live? See, I want to live, because I understand that even cage birds sing, and that human bodies know they are human, and that flowers blossom without permission. And this is how I believe we should live. Thank you so much, y'all. Go on and give it up for the panel, sitting with these beautiful artists. We have a few minutes to take a few questions, and I think we should do that because all art is a conversation. So if there is a hand, we'll do that now, or if not, y'all can go on home. We're streaming.
My name is Ivan. I'm a frequent guest here at the library. And I'm also inquiring into Blackness, inquiring into sexuality in public spaces, because of course, sexuality is a public expression always. And one of the questions that I was, I guess, inspired by the presentation here tonight is when it comes down to inquiring into oneself for the art to be produced, what element does one's acknowledgement or lack of acknowledgement about their own sexuality, or even questions about how they may feel sexually in their curiosities, affect the arts and affect the public statements that one makes from that space?
That's a great question.
It is a great question. You got it.
And I'm gonna say that everything that makes you who you are belongs in your heart. One of the things that attracts me to Baldwin, what keeps me with him constantly, is that he was ruthlessly interrogating his own life and situation all the time. Like once you start getting into his biographies and stuff, the people who are really close to him, that like lived with him day to day, they can tell you that every book, every novel, every essay, every short story was this internal struggle to ensure that he was being as true to himself as he could be, and as truthful about the situation that he was writing about and addressing he could be. And in order to do that, everything that he was went into his work. And that's not to say, because I was talking to Fred before, he had certain blind spots, and I think that they started to come out as he started to talk to these younger revolutionaries like Giovanni, Angela Jackson, Angela Davis, right? And so he realized that and started to incorporate that reality, those blind spots, look deeper into those corners about, hey, I am gay and I am a writer, but I don't want to just be a gay writer. Like that was his thing, right? It's part of who I am, but they keep creating these boxes. And they keep wanting to jam us in these boxes to make it easier to dismiss us. Right? So it's like, just keep being as truthful and honest about who you are in the work you can.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Oh. I don't need that. Okay. But to the brother's point and the question and your answer, does it feel like the others here that this whole expression and artists coming out, and for James Baldwin, him moving to Paris was a way that said to him, here, I can't do it here. It might be somebody from Arkansas going to New York. It could be their Paris, but he had to go to Paris to let his talent grow and flourish in different ways. And we're very Afrocentric here, but at the same time, I think that his links to overall white people or other people was there. He was more of a human and grew as his art, and that his success allowed him to, where we can't sometimes.
Yeah, I think this idea of working on your craft, right? Every artist needs a season to focus on their craft, not the gigs, not these other things. Your writing, your words, right? And he was taking his own, he became an expat, creating his own exile essentially, just so he could focus. And we're thankful that he made that decision.
I showed up tonight because I had to represent Black, gay, and political. I'm Black, gay, and political. So with inside that story, I asked how many people up here on this panel are Black, gay, and political? Are you queer? Okay, I'm asking, that's my question. Okay, so with inside that, thank you. Queer, I'm gay, I'm a lesbian. So I'll say it very clearly, not queer, I'm a lesbian. So I think that with inside those boxes that you're saying that we have to operate in, that I have to operate in on a daily, no, look, because they're boxes. They are boxes that we have to operate in on a daily basis. But as we try to make money in those boxes, I still put out Black, gay, and political. Like I put out 4 Black, gay, and political books here in Newark, New Jersey, which was like, whoa. And when I got here and I did a set here called Tongue, Political Erotica, that was a really powerful set that I ran for like 2.5 years that people showed up and I was surprised, like, wow, Black, gay, political, queer, whatever they doing up in this room was really powerful. So I think that it's important for us to really address those issues about being Black, gay, and political, because one of his profound, James Baldwin's profound things was that he was gay. People want to call it queer, they want to call it whatever they want to call it, but he was a gay man and he loved Black gay men, or however men he loved. He loved that, right? Just as though I love Black gay women. I meet a lot of bisexual women, but I love Black gay women. Right?
Baldwin met a lot of bisexual Black men too.
Right, that's right. So I think with inside those realities, to make this comment short, I asked the question was, how many Black, gay, and political people up on this panel? That was my question. It got answered. And then I'm saying again, as people in Newark, New Jersey, how important is it for us to walk in these streets as Black, gay, and political, and hip hop, and gangster? Because I see a lot of that. I haven't seen so many gangster Black gay men in my life until I came here. And so when I see that and I say, wow, that's powerful. Now, how does that transfer over to AIDS, right? Because Newark, New Jersey had a really big AIDS population amongst Black women. Why? Because their husbands weren't talking or their boyfriends weren't talking. So Black women died of AIDS here. So I think that's another panel, but at that moment, I'm just making a comment. Thank you.
I think that, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
I think that we learned from Baldwin just how to be courageous. He taught us how to be courageous. If we could walk away with anything from him, just be courageous in your truth and walk in your light and continue to ask those questions and, make your comments and shake up the space, because that's exactly what he did. So, and I feel like it's a way for, like, I feel like he's celebrating, like, okay, he's celebrating because you guys acknowledge, we all want to be seen, and Baldwin allows us to be seen in a certain type of way. So I'm glad that, you made your comment and that, we celebrating.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. I agree. It is a serious thing. Yeah, agree. So I think, yep, yes, please, please, please. So language is problematic, and yet it's all we have, right? So I think unpacking these words together is really important. Also want to give a shout out to the New Jersey, oh, Noel, help me. The New Jersey Queer Oral History Project. Did I get at Rutgers? Who I always get the full name wrong, but they have, yeah, they have a beautiful archive of Black, gay, queer, etc. IA folks where those stories are captured, and they've been a great supporter of my house music film. I think we have time for one more. Jesse, oh my goodness, two more. Don't get me in trouble.
Hi, just to summarize, and to the point of the conversation and to the film, as I sat here listening to what was being said and watching the film, I was reminded of a poem by Longfellow And I'm not going to do the whole poem, but I'll just recite the end of it. Oh, thy sculptor, painter, poet, musician, take this lesson to thy heart. Best is that lieth nearest, shape from that thy work of art.
Dropping Longfellow up in here. I love y'all. Now look, don't embarrass me. Don't embarrass me. I said it's a lot. Don't embarrass me.
I'll be quick. As someone who was actually raised in this library, Orange Library, and the East Orange Library, and my mother would sit me down and we would read a lot of writings from James Baldwin. It's very beautiful to see all these paintings because that's one thing that I did not see as a child born in 1980 in the 80s. I didn't see any paintings of James Baldwin. I've seen paintings of other writers, Hemingway and everyone else. So it's just beautiful to see. I'm not sure who the artist is because I just got here, but yes, this brother, this is, and you went to Orange too? Okay, that's great. Yeah. 108, thank you.
How's it going? Me, I'm a writer myself. I'm also a poet. But I'm also a recovering addict. So, you mentioned that no was a revolution. So I feel like there should be, or there is a revolution within recovery in itself. And you have to be able to say no, to the drug dealers on Broader Market, to the dope dealers, to the crack dealers and all that. But also the theme of one of my favorite stories from James Baldwin is Sonny's Blues. And even though it's a short story, to me it's very powerful because of the fact that Sonny, he was a dope fiend, well, a recovering dope addict at one point. And his brother could not understand why he was not only, of course, that was a part of his addiction, because let's not call that a personality trait, nothing like that. That was a part of his addiction. But why was he so into the jazz itself? And because I feel like the jazz, especially the piano that he played, and at one point that he took him to the nightclub at the end, and he saw him playing, he saw him in his full enthralled in his passion, and he kind of understood it. Even though he was from the outside looking in, he could see why he was so passionate about it. So I would like to know, you specifically, you mentioned that I think it was when you read your poem and how you have to find yourself. How is it that you find, a certain level of introspection, not only being a woman in this world, but being a human in this world full of 8 billion people? How is it that you're able to find yourself within all of this?
I think the answer to that is certainly in the strength that we get from our lineage and our bones, right? Because it's not necessarily that I'm doing any what I would consider profound work of finding myself, but it's the fact that I think each of us deep down inside, we know that we are human. And this world has robbed us of our ability to be human, right? Because we have to be one way or the other way, right? We have to be subservient, or we have to be aggressive, right? Or we have to put on this armor because we can't even just go places without thinking it's going to be combative. You can't even go to the doctor and you worry, okay, they're going to come in here, they're going to be on this mess, they're not going to listen to me, right? All the ways that we are dehumanized every single day, just in these very micro interactions, right? And then you think about what you're also absorbing through the world. And I know that when I am home by myself in the still, I know I'm human, which means I can laugh and cry and love and feel passionate and feel pleasure. And I want all of that for me because I know that when I am in that space, that's the space that I can live from. All the armor that I have to put on to live, I want to put that down. And I think everyone does, right? And that's why we have these spaces. That's why we seek out fellowship and community, because we're just trying to be the humans that we know we are. Yeah. So that, I think that's the answer. I think that's a beautiful place to stop. I appreciate y'all. Oh, come on now.
Yes, listen. Don't discount how important everything you said is, not just about your process. He's like, I'm not doing some profound like searching. That is profound. Saying, acknowledging to yourself that you are a human being and you're just not gonna let anybody take that away from you. You know how profound that is? There's people who don't get to that. I have lost people because they were not able to do that for themselves. So never discount that. That's big. That's big. Just saying I'm a human being and I don't deserve none of this. Okay? That is big. And don't discount that. When you take time for yourself, when you realize, man, I made it down this block today and I didn't stop for any of these people. I'm home, I'm safe, I'm chilling. I'm with my loved ones. I'm here. I'm noticing there's no queer people on this panel. No disrespect, I love y'all, but you know what? Hey, let me get up here and ask this question because you are a human being and you're looking for your people up here. So don't discount that ever, because that's how we get beyond. One of the things James Baldwin says in his writing was like, but he's like, what I want the young people to understand is don't believe anything these people say about you. That's the trap you cannot fall into, right? He says that in his writing. And when you take that time, that's big. That's heavy lifting right there. Own that and carry that every day. That's real. So,
Appreciate you.
Salute,
Appreciate you.
salute,
Appreciate
salute. Thank you. I know they about to ring the bell on us. We could obviously do this all night for
Thank you
hours
for
on
coming.
end. Amazing. Please give it up again for for this amazing panel. And for yourselves, we really appreciate y'all coming out. Thank you to my James Brown room staff, my brother Damani back there working the camera. Library is closing, but please keep up with everything we're doing online at James Brown or Newark Public Library. So.